You hear the word manipulation, and what comes to mind? Probably something a little dark, right? Maybe some malicious intent. But what if we just stripped all that away? What if we looked at it like a machine, a purely mechanical process? Well, the source material for today's explainer does exactly that. It breaks manipulation down into its core parts: power, persuasion, deception, and a very clear methodology. So let's pull back the curtain and see how this machine really works. So here's the game plan. First, we're going to redefine what manipulation even is, and it might not be what you think. Then we'll open up the toolbox and look at the three main instruments of influence. After that, we'll walk through a 6-step playbook for how to actually apply all this stuff. And finally, we're going to have to tackle the big, looming ethical questions that come with it. Let's kick things off with a big question to keep in the back of your mind as we go through this. Is manipulation always a bad thing? Or is it more like a hammer, a tool that's totally neutral? I mean, you can use a hammer to build a house, or you can use it to tear one down. It's something to think about. Okay, so first up, what is manipulation, really? Before we can get into the mechanics, we have to get on the same page. We need to scrape off all the negative baggage that comes with the word and just look at it for what it is. Here's the first really crucial distinction. Think of influence as this big, broad umbrella term. It's the parent category. You might influence a friend to check out a new band just by raving about their last concert. You didn't mean to, it just happened. That's influence. But manipulation, that's always intentional. It's a very specific kind of influence where you're actively trying to change someone's behavior to get something you want. So yeah, all manipulation is influence, but not all influence is manipulation. Okay, so what about persuasion? Manipulation's good twin. Well, our source material has a pretty radical take on this. It says persuasion isn't the opposite of manipulation. It's just one of the tools in the manipulation toolbox. And get this, it's often not even the best tool for the job. Just think about it. How many times has a purely logical argument all by itself completely changed your mind right there on the spot? And all of that brings us to the core definition we're going to be working with. Manipulation is an attempt to change another person's behavior to achieve a goal that's in the manipulator's own interests. Now, pay close attention to the words that aren't in that definition. There's nothing about lies or malice or causing harm. It's totally neutral. And by stripping it down to this mechanical core, we can actually analyze the process itself, completely separate from our own moral judgments. All right, we've got the what, now for the how. This next section is all about the 3 tools of influence. According to our source, basically every single act of manipulation, from the super simple to the incredibly complex, is built using these 3 basic components. And here they are, the big 3: power, persuasion, and deception. Now, I know these words seem familiar, but trust me, we're about to look at them through a very, very different lens. So get ready for a few surprises. Let's start with power. And you're probably going to have to forget everything you think you know about that word. In this system, power isn't about force or authority. It's simply the ability to help other people get what they want. It's that simple. If your coworker wants a promotion and you're in a position to help them get it, well, then you have power over them. It's all about being valuable to their goals. And this is the real kicker. It means that how much power you actually have isn't nearly as important as how much power people think you have. It's all about your reputation. What others believe you can do for them is where the real leverage is. In this game, the illusion of power can be just as potent as the real thing. Okay, next tool, persuasion. This one works best under 2 specific conditions. First, if you have genuinely new information that kind of shakes up their worldview. Or, second, and this is the big one, if you already have their trust. Think about a doctor trying to persuade a patient to take their medicine. It works because of that underlying trust. Without it, just laying out the facts, well, it usually falls flat. And then there's deception. Now hold on, because this isn't just about flat-out lying. It's defined way more broadly as the control of information. That could mean leaving out one little detail, or maybe changing the context around a fact, or even just timing when you release information. The whole goal is to shape their reality so that the choice they end up making freely is the exact choice you wanted them to make from the very beginning. This quote from the source just perfectly captures this cold, mechanical viewpoint. Imagine people as machines. Whoa. If you control the information they get, the inputs, you can pretty much control the actions they produce, the outputs. It takes all the emotion out of it and just treats it like a system. It's a pretty chilling analogy, but man, is it clear. Okay, so we have the definitions, we have the three core tools, but how do you actually put it all together? Well, that brings us to our third section, a 6-step methodology. This is where we go from abstract theory to a practical, step-by-step playbook. So here's the process laid out. Step 1, define your goal. You have to be crystal clear about what you want. Step 2, map your paths. Don't just settle on one plan. Think of all the different ways you could get there. 3, gather information. You need to know what makes people tick, their motivations, their weaknesses. That leads right into step 4, identify opportunities and threats. You analyze all that info and find your advantages. And only then do you get to step 5, take action. You execute the plan. And maybe most important of all is step 6, learn and improve. Win or lose, you look back at what happened so you can be sharper next time. So, once you see how all this works, how the machine is built, you pretty much have to ask the big question. That brings us to our final section, the ethical question. Because if manipulation really is just a tool, like that hammer we talked about, then you have to decide when and how, and maybe if you're ever going to pick it up. And our source material doesn't pull any punches here. It throws out this idea to frame the whole dilemma. It's a dog-eat-dog world. And if you aren't willing to be ruthless, somebody else is going to be ruthless to you. Now, that's a worldview that kind of positions this knowledge not just as a tool for getting ahead, but as a shield for survival. It really forces you to ask yourself, in a competitive world, where are my moral lines?
Look, there are no easy answers here. The book doesn't give you a moral compass. Instead, it just lays out the questions you have to ask yourself. Where do you draw the line on deception? What do you consider an abuse of power? Do the ends justify the means? Do you have a personal code of honor you follow? These are all things you have to figure out for yourself.
But for all this talk about gray areas, the source draws one line in the sand, and it's thick and bright red. It might play around with moral flexibility, but it's absolutely firm on this. Do not break the law. From a purely practical, mechanical point of view, the consequences, like fines or jail time, are a total system failure. They will never help you achieve your long-term goals. That is the one boundary you never, ever cross. And that brings us full circle, right back to a really challenging idea. The core argument here is that manipulation, by this new mechanical definition, is just a constant part of being human. It's happening all around us, all the time. And if that's true, it leaves us with one last, pretty provocative question. Are you going to be the one who understands how the machine works, or the one who's being run by it?